Older women are snatching up young dudes left and right.
Do you remember Bill Bellamy? He was once considered the heartbeat of MTV in the 90s, with an on-air style that sent America into a frenzy. He was the first person to say the phrase booty call on television, turning it into a pop culture phenomenon. Back then, everyone believed Bill was destined to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars, even expected to blow up like Chris Tucker or Jamie Foxx. But right at the peak of his career, Bill Bellamy suddenly vanished from the spotlight. No scandal, no retirement announcement, no explanation at all. He simply slipped out of public view, leaving the entire entertainment industry and fans wondering, where did Bill go? What actually happened? For years, no one knew the truth. Only recently, when Bill returned, did he reveal things that left people stunned. Hidden tensions at MTV, power struggles behind the scenes in Hollywood, and most shocking, a near-death moment when he almost lost his life and nearly never stepped on a stage again. What he revealed shook fans and forced Hollywood to re-examine one of the most mysterious disappearances of the 2000s. Newark, New Jersey in the 70s and 80s was like a wound that never healed. It was one of the poorest, most dangerous, most neglected cities in America at the time. Factories shut down, people lost jobs. Crime skyrocketed to the point where even police were worn out. This wasn't the kind of place that raised artists. It was the kind of place where people fought just to stay alive. Bill Bellamy was born on April 7, 1965. His father, William Bellamy Sr., did heavy warehouse labor. His mother, Edna Bellamy, worked multiple jobs, cleaning, serving, anything she could just to raise her 3 children. Whenever police sirens wailed outside, she would drag her son inside the house. His father always warned him, "Go straight home. Don't stop. Don't be curious. In this neighborhood, standing in the wrong spot can get you killed." And then tragedy struck, a tragedy that followed Bill for the rest of his life. The death of his younger brother, Heavy. Heavy was the softest-hearted kid in the family, always trailing behind Bill like a shadow. But one summer night, Heavy happened to be standing near a clash between 2 gangs. A single gunshot, a stray bullet. Heavy collapsed on the very street Bill had always believed was safe enough for him to play on. By the time Bill reached him, the boy was lying still, blood spreading across the pavement. That moment froze Bill Bellamy's world. He said that from that second on, the world felt unsafe, unfair. The pain of losing his brother became a wound that never healed, and the reason he told himself he needed to get out of here by any means necessary. But in that darkness, Bill found the one thing that saved him: comedy. At school, Bill was bullied for being poor, for wearing old clothes, for living on the wrong block. Instead of fighting, he used his quick wit to make the bullies laugh. Laughter became his shield. Friends started coming to him because he's funny as hell. He tells stories better than TV. But not everyone saw that potential. One teacher even stood in front of the class and said to his face, "You won't amount to anything." Those words cut deep, but they also became the first spark inside Bill. That day, the 12-year-old promised himself, "One day, all of them will know who I am." And he was right. The early grind. From small New York stages to the day MTV discovered Bill Bellamy. After graduating, Bill enrolled at Rutgers University to satisfy his parents. But his heart wasn't in the classroom. Each night while his friends studied, Bill quietly took a 30-minute train to New York, a city full of dreams, dangers, bright lights, and broken hopes. New York in the 80s was a place where a performer could either make it or get crushed instantly. Open mic nights were packed. The lights were hot, sweat, laughter, and brutal boos if you failed. Nobody respected anybody. Every night was a fight for survival. Bill stepped into that world with nothing. No mentor, no connections, no money for decent clothes. But he had one thing most young performers didn't. He had survived Newark. For a boy who had watched his brother die on the street, drunk comedy club crowds were nothing. He started from the lowest stages where the MC would shout, "Who's brave enough to try?" And the audience waited, just to watch you fail. In the early nights, Bill got cursed at, mocked, even had plastic cups thrown at him. But he kept coming back. The next night, and the next. Because every time he stepped on a stage, he took one step further away from Newark's darkness. Apollo Theater, the night that changed everything. The first major turning point came when Bill dared to perform at Amateur Night at the Apollo Theater, a stage where if the audience didn't like you, they'd raise the boo sign and pull you off within 10 seconds. Many performers never even made it to their first punchline. But Bill didn't flinch. He stood under the blazing lights carrying Newark's pain inside him and turned it into laughter. The first laugh came, then applause, then the entire room stood up. It wasn't just a win, it was the moment New York had to admit, this kid from Newark has something special. Bill Bellamy's name began spreading through the comedy world like a spark ready to ignite. The fateful night. When MTV discovered a star. One night in Manhattan, inside a tiny club hot as a furnace, Bill told a story about his family, about Heavy, his younger brother who was shot and killed, and about the fear of having to watch every step you take when you're black. The crowd laughed, then choked up. And in that audience, there was one man watching very closely, a producer from MTV. A few days later, Bill received a phone call that nearly made him drop his phone. "We're calling from MTV." He couldn't believe it. A kid who used to dodge stray bullets in Newark, a small-time comic barely making enough to put gas in his car, was now being invited to audition by MTV, the biggest music empire in America. Bill showed up without expecting much. But the moment he spoke his first line, the room went silent. Then they laughed. Then nodded. When Bill stepped outside, the producers turned to each other and said one thing: "We found him. This is the guy who can change MTV." They had no idea how right they were. And Bill had no idea he was about to become a cultural icon of the entire 90s. The peak years. How Bill Bellamy became a cultural icon of the 90s. Anyone who lived through the 90s knows this MTV wasn't just a channel. MTV was youth. It was culture. It was the moment. And Bill Bellamy stormed into MTV like a hurricane. MTV jams. Bill becomes the reason people turn on the TV. From the very first episodes of MTV Jams, Bill had America's full attention. He brought something no one at MTV had before: confidence. Like he was born in front of a camera energy that lit up the room with a single, "Yo, what's up everybody?" and charisma that made rappers and singers open up like they were talking to family. Within months, Bill became the reason millions tuned in. Producers said every episode he hosted boosted ratings. Major artists specifically requested to be interviewed by him. The interviews became legendary. Not every host could sit down with Tupac, Biggie, Aaliyah, Snoop Dogg, Diddy, Puff Daddy back then. And the most important part, they weren't guarded stiff or cold. They were warm, relaxed, and laughing with Bill. That alone showed his status. Bill Bellamy wasn't just a host. He was someone the legends trusted. MTV Beach House. Bill becomes a nationwide superstar. If MTV Jams made him famous, MTV Beach House turned him into a superstar. A beach packed with people. Music blasting non-stop, cameras spinning 360 degrees, thousands of teenagers screaming every time Bill appeared. He didn't just host, he ran the entire party. No one at MTV created a vibe like Bill. He smiled, the crowd roared. He cracked a joke, the whole beach erupted. Bill became the iconic face of the 90s summer. His energy spread across America like a wave of joy. MTV made Bill famous, but stand-up made him rich. With MTV's spotlight, Bill's tours sold out from New York to Los Angeles. His nightly pay skyrocketed fivefold in just 2 years. From $500, $800 a night in the early days, Bill quickly reached $5,000, $10,000 for small shows, $20,000 for bigger venues. And special summer events paid up to $40,000 just for Bill to appear for 30 minutes. This was the era when Bill made money as easily as breathing. In a time when American TV still discriminated and rarely handed spotlight to black entertainers, Bill Bellamy became the first black mainstream host to rise to nationwide fame. He kicked open the door for an entire generation of black VJs after him. Sway Calloway, Lala, Anthony Terrence, Jay, the cultural explosion. Booty call, one phrase that shook America. In one MTV episode, Bill casually joked, "So what's up with those late-night booty calls?" It was just a throwaway line, but America exploded. The studio laughed, and then the whole country repeated it. Booty call became national slang, showing up in movies, rap songs, talk shows used by kids, adults, and media alike. This wasn't just viral, this was cultural history. One phrase changed America, and it came from Bill. Hollywood sees Bill's value. A Superstar is Born MTV made Bill famous nationwide, but Hollywood turned him from TV star into multi-hyphenate entertainer. After MTV, Bill received dozens of casting offers. He didn't walk in relying on fame, he auditioned like a newcomer. And the payoff came sooner than anyone expected. In 1997, Bill landed the lead role in How to Be a Player. Hollywood didn't just give him a part, they put the entire movie on his shoulders. The result, a box office hit, a cult classic in black culture. And Bill instantly became one of Hollywood's most promising rising stars. Right after that, he starred alongside giants like Al Pacino, Jamie Foxx, Cameron Diaz, and LL Cool J in Oliver Stone's blockbuster Any Given Sunday. That was the defining moment. Bill Bellamy wasn't just a host, not just a comedian, he was a true all-around entertainer. And after his box office success, studios wanted to lock him in. His next film offers jumped to $750,000 and $1 million per major project, especially after appearing with an A-list cast in Any Given Sunday. With MTV's reach, Bill became the golden face of youth culture everywhere he went. He was valuable. If the 90s had 10 defining icons, Bill Bellamy unquestionably belonged on that list. He wasn't just a host, not just an actor, not just a comedian. He represented the energy, spirit, and laughter of an entire generation. Bill Bellamy was on top of the world, seen as MTV's new icon, and a prime candidate to become the next Chris Tucker. But right when he was shining the brightest, the cracks began to form, and they quietly destroyed his career from the inside. Hidden scandals, power games, and Hollywood's cold-blooded betrayal, MTV politics. We made you. We can unmake you. The bigger Bill became, more beloved, more influential, more capable of pulling ratings, the more threatening he appeared to certain MTV executives. Once Bill overheard a high-level producer backstage saying, "We created him, and we can get rid of him anytime." MTV began seeing Bill as too independent, too influential, too famous. Some inside the company feared he might become bigger than the network. And when MTV shifted toward reality TV to attract a new wave of teen viewers, music-era VJs like Bill Carson Daly and Daisy Fuentes saw their roles diminished. Bill's hosting schedule was slashed as if he never existed. Some shows he had already been booked for suddenly got a different host at the last minute. Rumors spread MTV wants to remove any face that's gotten too powerful so they can reset the hierarchy. Bill never confirmed it, but everyone could see the truth. MTV quietly pushed him to the sidelines, as if the Bill Bellamy era had never happened. Rumors of being blacklisted. Bill was too real, not built for showbiz. Behind the scenes, Bill was blunt. If a format was bad, he said it. If a producer treated artists poorly, he called it out. If the system was unfair, he didn't stay quiet. But Hollywood and MTV weren't built on people who speak the truth. They were built on people who know when to stay silent. Bill talks too much. He's too real, too hard to control. And after 2001, the worst thing happened. Bill was no longer invited back to any major MTV show. Everyone from his era got called back. Everyone except Bill, who vanished from the list. Rumors exploded in the industry. MTV blacklisted Bill. No document, no announcement. Just a silence that was loud enough to be obvious. Tension with certain celebrities. The hidden trigger. Bill always kept a friendly vibe, but his easygoing personality rubbed a few stars the wrong way. Some West Coast rappers, especially those around Ice Cube, felt Bill was too corporate, too clean-cut, not street enough. Cube once hinted backstage Bill's cool, but a little too MTV. There were rumors LL didn't like Bill asking about personal life, especially questions that were too familiar. LL thought it was too TV and crossed boundaries. Others found Bill too threatening, good-looking, charming, sharp, articulate. They were afraid Bill would outshine them during interviews. But the bitter irony was this: the people who disliked Bill spoke up quietly. The people who loved him didn't speak up at all. In the end, Bill stood between two worlds, hip-hop and mainstream, and sometimes got hit by both. Bill Bellamy had once been on top with MTV at his feet, Hollywood within reach, and America laughing with him. But then in just a few short years, the very system that raised him up began to turn its back. And what happened next was like a strong wind blowing out one of the brightest flames of the 1990s. The disappearance. What actually happened? MTV collapses and drags Bill down with it. When Bill joined MTV in the 90s, the channel was the heartbeat of American youth culture. But around 2003-2004, things changed. New executives no longer wanted a music-driven, diverse, street energy, hip-hop-flavored MTV. They wanted something else: reality shows, lightweight drama, easy-to-watch scripted content. Shows like The Real World, The Hills, Laguna Beach became the new focus. While music programs, artist interviews, the soul of MTV for an entire decade were cut without mercy. And when music left MTV, Bill left MTV too, only difference: he didn't choose to. Bill once said, "I woke up one morning and realized the show I loved was gone. Not because it stopped being good, but because they didn't want it anymore." One day he was the golden face of the network. The next day he wasn't on any time slot at all. Not fired, not argued with. Just complete silence. The kind of silence that tells an artist they've moved on. And they're not taking you with them. MTV was gone and Bill lost his biggest spotlight. But that was only the first blow. Hollywood, his second home after MTV, was preparing to hit even harder. The problem wasn't his talent. The problem was, Hollywood changed faster than Bill could pivot. In the early 2000s, a major shift began. The black comedy films of the 90s, Friday House Party, Booty Call, How to Be a Player, stopped getting funding. Audience taste moved toward awkward white-centric comedy, the Judd Apatow era, or toward light action comedy. The roles Bill used to thrive in simply disappeared from scripts. And when they did exist, they were shrunk down into minor, forgettable supporting parts. Bill refused to play stereotype roles: the black best friend, the funny guy who disappears after 5 minutes. He wanted real roles, complex, serious, layered. But Hollywood wanted him to stay the smooth, handsome, charming black guy. During one audition, a producer told him straight to his face, "We're looking for someone less slick, less good-looking." That wasn't a compliment. It was a quiet racial filter. Black comedy shouldn't look polished or refined, not like a leading man. Bill walked out of that casting room, closed the door, and realized he hadn't just lost MTV, he was losing Hollywood too. And then, while Bill was mentally shaken, American comedy entered a new era. Kevin Hart exploded. Cat Williams became a street icon. Mike Epps, Cedric the Entertainer, and an entire new generation rose like a flood. They were boosted by social media viral clips, YouTube, Netflix, tools Bill didn't adapt to in time. While the world sprinted forward, Bill was slowing down, lost in personal pain and abandoned by Hollywood. Within a few years, the name that once made America scream became a name rarely mentioned. But it didn't stop there. Another crisis began, an identity crisis. Bill no longer knew who he was in the entertainment world. Was he a host, an actor? A comedian MTV made him legendary, but nobody saw him as a traditional host. Hollywood loved his charm, but never gave him a permanent lane. Stand-up was his route, but the new generation had taken over the spotlight. Bill stood at a three-way intersection. All three paths were foggy. None of them solid enough to hold him like Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, or Kevin Hart. And as he lost his platform, his audience, his place, his direction, along with family pain and depression, Bill Bellamy disappeared. In the literal sense, an icon swallowed whole by time. No scandal, no retirement statement. Just an old star who no longer had a place in a world that was too fast, too young, too ruthless. After his career collapsed, what the public didn't know was that Bill's private life also entered a decade-long storm. And if losing his career took away his spotlight, his personal life would take away his inner strength. The cracks in his marriage. With Kristen Bellamy, Bill married Kristen Baker, later Kristen Bellamy, on June 16, 2001. The media called them couple goals. Friends said they were one of the sweetest Hollywood couples. But their marriage faced struggles Bill didn't share with the public for many years. When Bill left MTV and Hollywood's tastes shifted, his income wasn't stable like it was in the 90s. At his peak, he made millions. But when the industry changed, Bill went through years with almost no major projects. Kristen saw the loss more clearly than anyone. What people didn't know was that there were moments when Bill and Kristen didn't talk to each other for days because the pressure of life was simply too much. They never divorced, despite the rumors. But there were stretches where they had to fight, very hard just to stay together. In a 2023 interview, Kristen said, "Marriage isn't always as glamorous as the red carpet. We have our lows too." And Bill responded, "Without Kristen, I probably would have lost my way." Infidelity rumors. The shadow that followed Bill for years. Between 2010 and 2015, while Bill was touring heavily and focused on stand-up social media, began spreading rumors that he was having an affair with a younger female colleague. No evidence, no witnesses, no leaked photos. But on the internet, sometimes rumors don't need proof to hurt the people involved. Kristen always trusted her husband, but she admitted that the rumors left the family unable to eat or sleep for a while. Bill chose silence, no denials, no interviews, no comments. Once during a comedy show, he half-joked, half confessed, "I realized something. The less I say, the fewer problems I have." The audience laughed, but people who knew understood what he meant. What most people don't know is that Bill nearly died during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. A near-death experience. During COVID, the moment Bill almost didn't make it back. In 2020, when COVID-19 hit, Bill Bellamy became one of the severe cases among Black comedians. His body reacted violently, high fever difficulty, breathing pneumonia, spreading fast. He was rushed to the hospital with dangerously low oxygen levels. Doctors told the Bellamy family the words, "No family wants to hear. We have to monitor him closely. The first few hours will decide everything." Kristen stood outside the isolation room, watching her husband through the glass. Their 2 children stood behind her crying, without making a sound. Bill later shared, "I didn't know if I was going to make it. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought of my little brother, and thought maybe I was about to see him again." He survived. But when he walked out of the hospital, Bill was no longer the bright, invincible figure from the stage. He was a man who had just stared at death and realized his time wasn't as long as he once believed. Loss piled on top of loss. The real reason Bill pulled back and disappeared Heavy's death in the 80s was always the biggest wound in Bill's life. He used laughter to cover it. He used work to forget it. But when his career slowed and the stage lights dimmed, that pain returned, crushing and suffocating. In the years that followed, Bill lost more loved ones, a beloved uncle, a cousin who was like an older sister, and a childhood friend. Funerals came one after another, forcing Bill to face the only fear that truly weakened him, loneliness. When his career, health, spirit, family, and the world around him all changed too fast, Bill chose the only thing he could retreat: fewer appearances, fewer conversations, fewer shows, fewer interviews. Not because he quit, not because he disappeared, but because he was trying to protect whatever pieces of himself were left. He didn't retire, he didn't vanish, but he went quiet as if trying to hear his own heartbeat again. Wealth and money. How did Bill Bellamy make money after disappearing? This is the part that surprises people the most. Bill Bellamy disappeared from the spotlight, but he never disappeared financially. When a 90s star falls out of Hollywood, most follow a familiar pattern: overspending, bankruptcy. A long list of artists from Bill's era eventually had to publicly admit they were broke. But Bill was different. Personal finance reports estimate Bill's net worth at $8 to $10 million, an impressive number for someone who essentially vanished from Hollywood for nearly 15 years. Even more interesting, Bill doesn't live like a flashy rapper. He manages his money like a businessman, slow, steady, disciplined, never wasteful. Even when his TV career slowed, Bill never abandoned stand-up, and that became his financial lifeline. From 2010 until now, Bill has been touring consistently, hitting theaters from Las Vegas to Atlantic City. He's not exploding like Kevin Hart, not dominating like Dave Chappelle, but his shows always sell out just enough to bring in steady yearly income. One veteran comic once said Bill will never be broke. As long as he can hold a mic, he's good. Bill didn't wait for blockbusters, didn't wait for big roles. He chose stability and strategy. Like many comedians from the 90s, Bill invested in real estate in California, not in luxury mansions, but in safe assets. He owns a home in Sherman Oaks, another in Encino, and a few smaller investments around Orange County. Bill doesn't show off, doesn't flaunt his houses, but everyone in the business knows he doesn't waste money. And real estate is exactly what helped him keep a strong net worth throughout his disappearing years. The recent comeback. What just happened? After 2 decades of silence, a whole generation grew up not knowing who he was. Hollywood forgot him among hundreds of viral faces, and MTV abandoned its musical roots for reality shows. Everyone assumed Bill Bellamy was just a memory of a past era. But then, in the most unexpected moment, Bill reappeared with the confidence of a survivor and the energy of a warrior. Top billing the explosion that shocked both Gen Z and millennials. What no one predicted was this Bill's comeback didn't start on TV. It didn't start with a movie. It didn't start with MTV or Hollywood. It started with a podcast. When Bill launched Top Billin' with Bill Bellamy, nobody expected that a seemingly simple format, backstage stories told by someone who was actually there, would become an internet phenomenon. But within weeks, his clips blew up on TikTok and YouTube, hitting millions of views. Why? Because Bill is a living archive of 90s hip-hop culture. For the first time, audiences heard stories of Tupac laughing backstage like a kid, Biggie telling Bill he didn't know how much time he had left, Aaliyah being shy yet powerful, Ice Cube cracking up at a joke Bill never shared on MTV artists, thanking Bill privately for interviews that helped them shine. Every line, every memory he tells gives people chills. These aren't interviews. This is cultural history told by someone who stood at the center of the storm. And within months, Top Billin' became the podcast making Gen Z ask, wait, who is Bill Bellamy and why is he this cool? Stand-up comeback Bill returns to the stage that saved his life. After years of performing only occasionally, Bill did something no one expected. He went all in on stand-up again. Like the days he conquered Apollo Theater, nobody knows where he found the energy. But anyone who goes to his shows understands one thing. Bill Bellamy came back stronger than his MTV era. Stories about Newark, about harsh Hollywood, about fame and disappearance. He tells everything hilarious, bitter, sharp, emotional. And the best part, every show is sold out. Old fans return to see their icon. Younger fans show up curious about that uncle who went viral on TikTok. And everyone leaves on their feet clapping. Hollywood starts calling again. He's the OG this generation is missing. An unexpected twist when Bill went viral again. It wasn't the old school directors calling him. It was Gen Z and millennial filmmakers. The kids who grew up with MTV, who grew up with Tupac, who lived through 90s culture. They said, we need a real OG, not an actor pretending to be one. In the past 2 years, Bill has appeared again on talk shows, radio shows, late-night shows. He's been invited for cameos, guest appearances, mentor roles, even major parts in new series. Hollywood once pushed him out, but the new generation is pulling him back like a cultural treasure. Fans are stunned because Bill Bellamy looks insanely good for someone in his mid-50s. One of the reasons Bill Bellamy's comeback blew up is that the public, especially Gen Z and millennials, realized that at over 55, Bill looks much younger than most artists from his era. This isn't flattery. It's something people keep mentioning under his viral clips on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And that's one of the factors that helped him go viral again. People don't just remember Bill Bellamy for his past, they're shocked because he looks like he never left the stage. His looks and his unchanged presence, combined with how sharp he still is as a storyteller, make many people say that Bill has returned in a way that feels incredibly convincing, as if time has treated him much more gently than everyone else. Bill Bellamy wasn't just an MTV VJ, not just a comedian, not just the star of How to Be a Player. He is a living witness to the golden age of American hip-hop culture. He opened doors for black artists to enter the mainstream without having to tone themselves down. He was the laughter that softened the harsh edges of the 90s. He was the bridge connecting Tupac, Biggie, Aaliyah, Diddy, Snoop, Ice Cube, to millions of TV viewers across America. He coined booty call, a phrase that became a piece of pop culture history. Bill's legacy isn't in camera shots or Hollywood contracts. It lives in the cultural impact he left behind. If you think this story deserves to be known by more people, drop a comment and tell me which MTV era you remember Bill Bellamy from, or which moment in his career impressed you the most. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you don't miss the next stories about the legends of R&B, hip-hop, and American entertainment, the stories not everyone tells you.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast.
There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on the screen.